Hey, it's Julian and Jen from Autonomy Learning, and the past couple of weeks we've been talking a lot about emotional regulation and
Mhm.
about emotions in general. We've given you some strategies using breathing techniques to really calm and kind of get that amygdala shut off so that our PFC, our thinking center, can start thinking. Secondly, we've talked a lot about naming feelings, right? Thinking about, okay, the body cues are happening. What exactly am I feeling? Let's label it so that we can kind of think through it in a more rational way. Finally, we've been talking about using how our brain uses context, really our
Mhm.
experiences, to help us label and name and decide how extreme maybe our reaction needs to be.
So, taking those pieces, when we equip our kids with all of those different types of strategies, that's really empowering to kids, right?
Yeah.
So, bottom line, that's what we continue to be all about is how are we helping our kids to really become their most confident and capable versions of themselves? And this ties directly to that. But here's the other piece. And we talked about this a little bit in this week's Motivation Minute that if our kids don't have opportunities to practice these skills,
Mm.
then they become strategies that they have an awareness of, but they don't own for themselves yet. So, we want to talk a little bit about some ways to build in opportunities and why that's so important.
Yeah, practice is huge, right?
Yeah.
If we've just kind of learned something and it kind of sits there,
Hmm.
it's going to wash out, right?
Exactly.
It needs to go into long term memory, and long term memory is when you have been active and kinesthetic and you've actually practiced, right? So I think about like that context piece, right? I think
Hmm.
that's sometimes hard for us to conceptualize, but you and I kind of talked through an example of so if a child is getting a body cue because a dog is nearby and there's been a bad experience with this
Mm,
a dog,
yeah.
right? And it was really frightening. If the child only has one
One
experience,
opportunity,
one
and that's
opportunity,
how it went.
and all of a sudden, like, then
Yep.
all dogs are just, it's going to be this huge reaction, right?
And that's the one story that they have
Hmm.
of interactions with dogs in their head.
Right.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean we need to take them to the pound and they need to see all the dogs all at once and all the things, but it's talking that through with them and saying, hey, you saw that dog on a walk. That wasn't a horrible experience. That dog just kind of walked with its owner and you felt fine. Think about that, right? Because then that puts another context of an interaction in their brain that they can, again, you've got this thing called the hippocampus, right? This is all your memories and they're
Mhm.
there. And when another interaction comes up,
Yeah.
right, it's not just going to be that one really frightening moment. It could be that, oh, that wasn't a bad moment either. And those even out. And so your child will be better able to evaluate, does my reaction need to be huge?
Right.
Or is it, oh, let me look at the situation and frame it a little differently?
And as parents, we can really help with that. What are the situations, the opportunities that we help our kids become more aware of in their everyday lives, right? So I
Mhm.
hear you giving a simple example of walking by another dog. That might not seem like a teachable moment,
Mhm.
but if it's expanding the one story that our kids have of interactions with dogs, then let's use that teachable moment to help equip our kids to better manage any future situations.
Right. And I think in the classroom, it's the same thing. Like
Yeah.
as a teacher, right, you might kind of happen upon a situation and a child's having a really big example, a reaction to something. And upon like unpacking it, you might realize, wow, they've had an experience in the past with a certain kind of like a test or, a certain interaction with another person that kind of triggered something, right?
Yeah.
But then saying, hey, wait a minute, in this situation, and talking them through that maybe it wasn't the same, right? And giving them that breadth of experience and
Yeah.
that, again, an opportunity to say, oh, it's not always like this. It
Yep.
could be like this, or like this, or like this, or like this.
We are really giving our kids
Yeah.
a gift,
Hmm.
right? And really equipping them when they know that there are multiple ways to frame a situation.
Right.
And our emotional vocabulary is part of that, and our opportunities to practice are part of that. And really, this comes back to, right, each of those interactions that we have with our kids as parents or educators, we have the ability to empower them. Let's use every opportunity that we can.
Absolutely. So go practice, right? And comment below. Come and join us on the blog every week on Mondays. We're glad you're here.